My son texted me, "Don't come to my wedding. My fiancé is against your presence." I canceled all payments. On the next day, he showed up at my door and, "I'm glad you're here with me. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end and let me know which city you're listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled." Before that text message arrived, I thought I knew what happiness looked like. I was 62 years old, a widow of 5 years, living in my modest 2-bedroom house in Sacramento. My son Marcus was my whole world, my only child, born when I was 23. His father, my late husband Tom, had left us comfortable enough. Not wealthy, but secure. I had my pension from 30 years of teaching elementary school, a paid-off mortgage, and about $80,000 in savings that I'd carefully built up over decades. Marcus had always been a good son. He called every Sunday. He remembered my birthday. When Tom died, Marcus drove 3 hours from San Francisco every other weekend to make sure I was okay. So when he told me he'd met someone, a woman named Vanessa, I was genuinely happy for him. The first time I met Vanessa was at a restaurant in the city. She was beautiful, I'll give her that. 28 years old, with perfectly styled blonde hair and designer clothes that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Marcus was 35, and I could see he was completely smitten. She smiled at me across the table, but the smile never quite reached her eyes. "Marcus has told me so much about you," she said, her tone polite but measured. Throughout dinner, I noticed small things. The way she'd cut Marcus off mid-sentence. How she ordered the most expensive item on the menu without hesitation, then barely touched it. The dismissive glance she gave me when I mentioned my teaching career. But I pushed those observations down. Marcus was in love. Who was I to judge? 3 months later, Marcus called with the news. They were engaged. I cried tears of joy. My baby was getting married. "Mom, I need to talk to you about the wedding," he said, and I could hear the nervousness in his voice. "Of course, sweetheart, whatever you need." "Well, Vanessa and we've been looking at venues, and everything is so expensive. We found this beautiful place in Napa Valley, but the deposit alone is $15,000 and—" "Say no more," I interrupted. "I want to help. Let me pay for the wedding." There was a pause. "Mom, are you sure? That's a lot of money." Was I sure? I had dreamed of this day since Marcus was born, walking him down the aisle, seeing him start his own family. "I've been saving for something important my whole life," I told him. "This is it. This is what matters." Over the next 2 months, I wrote check after check. The venue, $25,000. The catering, $18,000 for 150 guests. Vanessa's dress, $4,000. Flowers, $3,000. Photography, $5,000. The band, $6,000. Bar service, $7,000. When Marcus hesitated at the costs, Vanessa would squeeze his hand and say, "It's our special day, babe. It only happens once." I watched my savings account dwindle from $80,000 to just under $15,000. But every time doubt crept in, I'd imagine Marcus's face on his wedding day. That's what grandmothers do, right? We sacrifice for our children's happiness. Then the invitations went out. Beautiful cream-colored cards with embossed gold lettering. I received mine in the mail like any other guest. That stung a little. Shouldn't I have gotten mine hand-delivered? But I let it go. The text message came on a Tuesday evening. I was in my kitchen preparing dinner when my phone buzzed. "Mom, we need to talk. Don't come to the wedding. Vanessa doesn't want you there. She says you make her uncomfortable. I'm sorry. I'll call you after the honeymoon." I read it 3 times. My hands started shaking so badly I had to set down the knife I'd been using to chop vegetables. Make her uncomfortable? I'd met the woman 4 times. I'd been nothing but kind and supportive. I'd emptied my life savings to pay for their fairy tale wedding. Don't come to the wedding, my own son's wedding. The wedding I had paid for. I sank into a kitchen chair and stared at my phone. $65,000. Gone. And now I wasn't even invited to see where it went. How had this happened? When did my son become someone who could send such a message? What kind of woman asks a man to uninvite his own mother? The phone rang. Marcus's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. Then he called again. And again. Finally, I answered. Mom, please understand. Understand what, Marcus? My voice sounded strange to my own ears. Cold. Flat. Vanessa just thinks. She thinks you don't approve of her. She feels judged. So I've paid $65,000 for a wedding I'm not allowed to attend? Silence. Marcus, I need you to hear me very clearly. If I am not welcome at your wedding, then my money isn't welcome either. I'll be canceling all the payments tomorrow morning. Mom, you can't. The contracts? I hung up. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table with every receipt, every contract, every bank statement spread out before me. The numbers blurred together as tears finally came. Not gentle tears. These were the angry, choking sobs of someone who'd been played for a fool. $65,000. 25% of that was already paid in deposits. The rest was due in installments over the next 6 weeks. The wedding was scheduled for 8 weeks from now, on the first Saturday in June. At 3 a.m, I made coffee and started reading contracts. Really reading them. Thank God for my late husband, Tom, who'd always insisted we understand every document we signed. Most vendors required a 50% non-refundable deposit, with the balance due 2 weeks before the event. But, and this was crucial, I was the one who'd signed these contracts. My name, my credit card. Legally, I was the client, not Marcus and Vanessa. The venue contract was particularly interesting. It specified that the person who'd signed it, me, had the right to cancel up to 30 days before the event with a 50% refund of all payments made. After that, everything was non-refundable. I grabbed a calculator. If I canceled now, I could potentially recover about $20,000. Not nothing, but not nearly what I'd lost. My phone buzzed constantly throughout the night. Marcus. 17 missed calls. 12 text messages, ranging from apologetic to angry to desperate. I ignored them all. When dawn broke, I showered, dressed carefully in my best navy pantsuit, and went to my bank as soon as it opened at 9. Mrs. Palmer, good morning, said Janet, the branch manager I'd known for 15 years. What can I do for you today? I need to stop payment on several upcoming transactions, I said, sliding my list across her desk. Janet's eyes widened as she scanned the amounts. Margaret, this is quite significant. Is everything all right? My son is getting married, I said simply. I was paying for the wedding. Now I'm not invited, so I'm not paying. Janet's expression shifted from concern to something else, a kind of grim understanding that could only come from another woman who'd seen family drama. Let me see what we can do. She worked efficiently, making calls, typing rapidly. The good news is that several of these charges haven't processed yet. I can stop them immediately. The deposits you've already paid, those are trickier. You'd need to contact the vendors directly and negotiate refunds based on your contract terms. That's what I plan to do. By noon, I'd stopped $28,000 in upcoming payments. Marcus called 6 more times. I let them all go to voicemail. That afternoon, I started calling vendors. I began with the ones I liked. The florist, a sweet woman named Rosa, who'd shown me photos of her own grandchildren during our consultation. Rosa, this is Margaret Palmer. I need to discuss the Whitmore Palmer wedding. Oh yes, we're so excited. The orchid arrangements are going to be spectacular." I'm sure they would be. Unfortunately, I need to cancel the order. Cancel? But the wedding is only... I know the timeline. I'm the one who signed your contract. I'm also the one who's no longer invited to the wedding. A sharp intake of breath. The bride uninvited you? Her future mother-in-law? Correct. So I see no reason to continue paying for flowers I won't see. According to our contract, since we're more than 30 days out, I should receive a 50% refund of the $1,500 deposit I paid. Rosa's voice hardened. You'll have your check by Friday, Mrs. Palmer, and I'm putting this Vanessa woman on my difficult clients list. I don't work with people who treat mothers like that. One down. The caterer was less sympathetic. Mrs. Palmer, we have a strict no refund policy on deposits. Mr. Chen, I'm not asking for a refund. I'm informing you that I'm canceling the contract. The person who signed it, me, will not be attending the event. Therefore, I won't be paying the remaining $15,000. You can keep your $3,000 deposit as compensation for your time. But if you pursue me for the balance, I'll see you in small claims court, and I'll bring documentation proving that I've been excluded from the event I was paying for. How do you think that will look to a judge? Or to your other clients when they hear about it? Silence. Then, I'll need to discuss this with my business partner. You do that. You have my number. I worked through the list methodically. Photographers, band, bartending service. Some were kind, some were cold, but they all understood the basic principle. I wasn't paying for an event I couldn't attend. By evening, I'd secured about $15,000 in refunds and stopped another $28,000 in upcoming charges. I'd lost about $22,000. Painful, but not catastrophic. My phone rang again. This time, it wasn't Marcus. It was an unknown number with a San Francisco area code. Against my better judgment, I answered. Mrs. Palmer? A woman's voice, Vanessa. We need to talk. There's nothing to discuss, Vanessa, I said, my voice steady despite the anger coursing through me. Look, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Marcus told me you're canceling everything. You can't do that. We have contracts. Yes, we do. Contracts that I signed, that I'm paying for, and that I'm now terminating. But the wedding, your wedding, not mine. I'm not invited, remember? You made that very clear through my son, instead of having the courage to tell me yourself. Her tone shifted, becoming honeyed. Mrs. Palmer, Margaret, I never said you couldn't come. I just thought maybe you'd be more comfortable skipping the ceremony itself. You know, because of your age, all that standing. But of course you're invited to the reception. Stop. I cut her off. I'm 62, not 92. I taught third graders for 30 years. I can stand through a wedding ceremony. And Marcus's text was very specific. Don't come to the wedding. Not skip the ceremony. Don't insult my intelligence. You're being unreasonable. Do you know how hard it is to plan a wedding? How much stress we're under? With my money, yes. I imagine it was very stressful deciding which luxury options to choose. She made a sound of frustration. Marcus was right about you. You're controlling and manipulative. You're trying to ruin our special day because you can't stand that he loves someone else now. Something in me turned to ice. Vanessa, let me be absolutely clear. I was prepared to give you the wedding of your dreams. All I asked for was to be there. You decided I wasn't good enough to attend. Fine. But you don't get both. My money and my absence. Choose one. You bitter old... She caught herself. We'll sue you. Breach of contract. Please do. I'd love to stand in front of a judge and explain how I paid $65,000 for a wedding I was explicitly told not to attend. The press would love that story too. Greedy bride sues uninvited mother-in-law. Great headline, don't you think? She hung up. Marcus called 30 seconds later. I declined the call and sent a text. When you're ready to have an honest conversation without Vanessa coaching you, call me. Until then, the answer is no. The money is stopped. The wedding you wanted is not happening on my dime. The next morning, I received an email from an attorney's office. My hands trembled as I opened it. But as I read, I realized it wasn't a lawsuit. It was something far more interesting. Dear Mrs. Palmer, I represent Rosa Delgado of Rosa's Floral Design. Mrs. Delgado has informed me that after your cancellation, she received a call from Vanessa Whitmore threatening to post negative reviews and destroy her business if she didn't continue the floral services free of charge as compensation for the emotional distress of the cancellation. Mrs. Delgado is prepared to file a harassment complaint and wanted you to be aware. She's also willing to provide a written statement about these threats if you need documentation. Please call me at your convenience. I sat back in my chair. So Vanessa was threatening vendors. Interesting. I called Rosa's attorney, a sharp-sounding woman named Patricia Torres. Mrs. Palmer, thank you for calling back. My client wanted you to know what's happening. This Vanessa woman is calling every vendor on your list, claiming you've had a mental breakdown and that she and your son are trying to protect you by taking over payment. She's asking them to continue services and send bills to her. None of them will get paid, I said flatly. She has no money. That's why I was paying for everything. We suspected as much. Several vendors have compared notes. They're not falling for it. An idea formed. Patricia, can I hire you? For what purpose? I want documentation. I want every threat Vanessa makes, every lie she tells, every vendor she tries to manipulate. I want it recorded and compiled. Can you do that? I can. But why? What's your end game here? My end game is making sure that when this is over, everyone knows exactly who Vanessa Whitmore really is, including my son. Consider yourself retained. My rate is $200 an hour, cheap for what you're getting. I hired her on the spot. Over the next week, Patricia's reports started coming in. Vanessa had called the venue, claiming I had dementia. She'd told the photographer I was jealous and unstable. She'd informed the caterer that she was Marcus's actual mother, and I was an overbearing ex-wife. Each lie was more desperate than the last. But the real revelation came from the band leader, a man named Keith who'd played at thousands of weddings. Mrs. Palmer, I thought you should know something, he said when I called to finalize the cancellation. Vanessa called me yesterday, offered me $5,000 cash, under the table, no taxes, if I'd play the wedding anyway and just not tell you. When I said no, she started crying, said she'd already sold her engagement ring to cover some of the costs, said you'd ruined everything, and Marcus was devastated. She sold her engagement ring. That's what she claimed. I don't know if it's true, but she sounded pretty desperate. After I hung up, I sat thinking. Vanessa was panicking. Good. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. This isn't over, old woman. You'll regret this. I forwarded it to Patricia Torres with a note. Add this to the file. The point of no return had passed. The threatening text message was just the beginning. Over the next 48 hours, Vanessa escalated from intimidation to all-out war. First came the social media posts. She'd created a Facebook group called Justice for Vanessa and Marcus and invited what looked like half of San Francisco. The posts painted me as a controlling, abusive mother who was sabotaging my son's happiness out of spite. She included carefully cropped screenshots of my text messages, removing all context to make me look cruel. Margaret Palmer promised to pay for our wedding, then abandoned us when she didn't get her way, one post read. Now we're homeless, penniless, and heartbroken. Please help us salvage our special day. There was a GoFundMe link at the bottom. Target amount, $75,000. I stared at my computer screen, feeling a cold fury build. She was crowdfunding a wedding she'd uninvited me from, using my refusal to be extorted as proof of my villainy. Patricia Torres called within the hour. Have you seen the Facebook group? I'm looking at it now. This is defamation, Margaret. Arguably libel. We can send a cease and desist. Do it, but I want more than that. I want every screenshot, every comment, every lie documented. When this is done, I want an ironclad case. You're thinking lawsuit? I'm thinking insurance policy. Keep gathering evidence. The next attack came through Marcus himself. He appeared at my door on Friday evening, looking haggard. Dark circles under his eyes, wrinkled clothes, 3 days of stubble. For a moment, my mother's heart broke. Marcus. Mom, please. His voice cracked. Vanessa's family has disowned her over this. My friends think I'm a monster for letting you do this to her. We've raised $800 on GoFundMe. $800. We're going to have to cancel everything. Is that what you want? To humiliate me in front of everyone I know? I stood in my doorway, blocking his entry. Why did she tell you to uninvite me, Marcus? She didn't. It wasn't like that. Your text message was very clear. Don't come to the wedding. Vanessa doesn't want you there. What part of that am I misunderstanding? He ran his hands through his hair. She was upset. She felt like you were judging her, criticizing her choices. When? When did I criticize her? At dinner. You made that comment about her dress. I searched my memory. I said her dress was beautiful. That's a compliment, Marcus. The way you said it. The tone. She felt attacked. So because your fiancé is too insecure to handle a compliment, I'm banned from your wedding but still expected to pay for it? Do you hear how insane that sounds? His face reddened. You don't understand what it's like. She's been through so much. Her family's wealthy, but they control everything. She just wants one day that's hers, that she controls. With my $65,000. It's not about the money. Then have the wedding without my money. Small ceremony, city hall, backyard barbecue. There are 1,000 ways to get married without bankrupting your mother. But that's not what Vanessa wants, is it? She wants the Napa Valley venue and the designer dress and the 5-tier cake. She wants champagne and caviar. Just not the woman who's paying for it. Marcus's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his expression shifted, became harder. He was reading something. A text from Vanessa. I'd bet money on it. Mom, Vanessa's lawyer says what you're doing is elder financial abuse in reverse. You made a promise, created an expectation, got her hopes up, then pulled out to punish her. That's tortious interference. Her lawyer, so she can afford an attorney but not a wedding? He's doing it pro bono because he thinks what you're doing is wrong. Then I'll see him in court. Bring your contracts. I'll bring mine, the ones I signed with my name, paid with my money. We'll see what a judge thinks about a bride who uninvites the person funding her wedding. You're being vindictive. I'm being rational. Vanessa made a choice. Actions have consequences. I taught you that when you were 5 years old. Apparently you've forgotten. His jaw clenched. If you don't reinstate the payments by Monday, I'll never speak to you again. Vanessa's made that clear. It's her or you, Mom. Choose. The ultimatum hung in the air between us. My only child. Threatening to cut me off forever. Marcus, if Vanessa is making you choose between your mother and your marriage before the wedding even happens, what kind of life do you think you'll have after it? But that's your decision to make. As for mine, the answer is no. The payments stay canceled. He stared at me with something that looked like hatred, then turned and walked away. I closed the door, leaned against it, and finally let myself cry. Not from regret, from grief. Grief for the son I thought I knew who'd let a woman turn him into a stranger. I took the next 3 days off, turned off my phone, sat in my garden, let myself feel every emotion without judgment. Tom would have known what to say. Tom would have talked sense into Marcus. But Tom was gone, and I was alone. By Monday, I felt hollow but steady, ready for whatever came next. Tuesday morning, a bouquet of white roses appeared on my doorstep. The card read, "Dear Margaret, I apologize for the misunderstanding. Can we start over? Please call me Vanessa." I carried the flowers directly to my trash bin and dropped them in. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Vanessa again. "Did you get my flowers?" I did. "And?" "They're in the garbage where they belong. Don't waste your money on performative apologies, Vanessa. Save it for your wedding." "I'm trying to fix this." Her voice cracked, a calculated sob. "I never wanted to hurt you. I was just stressed and overwhelmed, and I said things I didn't mean. Marcus is miserable. I'm miserable. Can't we please just sit down and talk? Woman to woman? No. You won't even give me a chance? You've had multiple chances. You use them to lie to vendors, threaten small business owners, defame me on social media, and manipulate my son. There's nothing to talk about. What if I promised you could come to the wedding? Full invitation, honored guest, front row seat. Would you reinstate the payments then?" And there it was, the real offer, the temptation. For a moment, just a moment, I imagined it, walking into that Napa Valley venue, seeing Marcus in his tuxedo, watching him get married, being part of the day I'd dreamed about. Then I imagined sitting in that front row, knowing Vanessa had only invited me back because she needed my money, knowing she'd probably resent my presence at every moment, knowing my son had chosen her manipulation over his own mother's dignity. "No," I said simply. "No? But you said—" "I said if I wasn't welcome at the wedding, my money wasn't welcome either. That's still true. But here's what you don't understand, Vanessa. Even if you invited me back, I wouldn't pay. Because now I know exactly who you are, and I'm not funding your fairy tale. You'll regret this. When Marcus never speaks to you again, when you're old and alone and dying, you'll remember that you chose pride over family. If Marcus chooses you over me based on money rather than character, then I've already lost him. At least this way, I keep my self-respect." She hung up without another word. That afternoon, I received an email from someone named Diane Castellano. The subject line read, "You don't know me, but we need to talk." I almost deleted it as spam. Something made me open it instead. "Mrs. Palmer, my name is Diane. I was engaged to Vanessa Whitmore's brother, Tyler, 2 years ago. I saw your son's Facebook post defending her and recognized the pattern immediately. Vanessa destroyed my wedding too. She convinced Tyler that I was using him and didn't really love him. She manufactured situations to make me look bad, then played the innocent victim. It took me 6 months to realize she was intentionally sabotaging our relationship because she couldn't stand not being the center of attention. Tyler eventually chose his sister over me. They're a package deal. She's enmeshed with him in a way that's deeply unhealthy. I'm telling you this because I wish someone had warned me. I lost $12,000, a year of my life, and a man I loved. Don't let her gaslight you into thinking you're the problem. You're not. She is. If you need someone to talk to, or if you need documentation of her past behavior, I'm here. Diane." My hands trembled as I read it twice. Then I called Patricia Torres. "I need you to vet someone for me." 24 hours later, Patricia confirmed it. Diane Castellano was real. Her story checked out. She'd even provided screenshots of messages where Vanessa had spread lies about her to Tyler's friends and family, the same tactics she was using on me now. I called Diane that evening. "Thank you," I said simply. "You have no idea what your email meant." "Yes, I do," Diane replied. "I know exactly what it's like to be gaslit into thinking you're crazy when you're actually the only sane person in the room. Vanessa, is a narcissist, Mrs. Palmer. Clinical level. She needs control, attention, and complete submission. Anyone who threatens that, mothers, ex-fiancés, anyone, becomes the enemy. Why is Marcus falling for it? Because she's good. She probably love-bombed him early on, excessive affection, making him feel like the most special man alive. Then she slowly isolated him from anyone who might question her. Now he's trauma-bonded. He's defending her because he's invested so much, lost so much already. Admitting she's toxic would mean admitting he's been played. We talked for 2 hours. By the end, I didn't feel crazy anymore. I felt validated, supported, clear-headed. There's a support group, Diane said. Online, for people who've dealt with narcissists. I'll send you the link. You're not alone in this, Margaret. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. I joined the group. Posted my story. Within hours, I had 50 responses. People who'd experienced similar situations, who understood exactly what I was going through. Several had dealt with toxic in-laws or manipulative partners. They offered advice, solidarity, empathy. One woman, a psychologist, messaged me privately. Document everything. Stay calm. Don't engage emotionally. Narcissists escalate when they lose control. She'll get worse before she gives up. But she will give up eventually. They always do when they realize you're not feeding their drama. I took her advice to heart. The next 3 days were quiet. Suspiciously quiet. No calls, no texts, no flowers, no threats. I knew it wouldn't last. The knock came on Saturday afternoon. I'd been expecting it, in a way. The calm had lasted too long. I opened the door to find Marcus and Vanessa standing on my porch. Marcus looked uncomfortable, his shoulders hunched. Vanessa wore a soft pink dress and a practiced smile, the kind that's meant to convey vulnerability and innocence. "Mom," Marcus started, "we want to talk, really talk. Can we come in?" Every instinct screamed at me to say no, but I stepped aside and let them enter. They sat on my sofa, the sofa where Marcus had sat 1,000 times as a child, watching cartoons, doing homework, talking about his day. Now he sat there holding hands with a woman who'd tried to erase me from his life. "Margaret," Vanessa began, her voice sugary sweet. "I owe you a tremendous apology. I've been under so much stress with the wedding planning, and I handled things so badly. I never should have said you couldn't come. I was being petty and insecure. Can you forgive me?" I sat in the armchair across from them, my expression neutral. "Go on." "I've been thinking a lot about family lately, about what it means to blend 2 families together, and I realize now that I was pushing you away because I was scared. Scared you wouldn't accept me. Scared I'd never be good enough for Marcus in your eyes. She was good. I'd give her that." The tears welling up in her eyes looked almost real. "I want us to start over," she continued. "I want you to be at the wedding. I want you to be part of our lives. I want my children to know their grandmother." She reached across and placed her hand on mine. "Please, give me another chance." Marcus leaned forward. "Mom, I know I've handled this terribly. I let Vanessa's fears become my fears. But we've been in couples counseling. Since when?" I asked. "Since last week, after our fight. The therapist helped us realize we were excluding you because we were afraid of being controlled. But that was unfair. You've been nothing but generous." I studied them both. Marcus looked hopeful. Vanessa looked calculating. Behind the tears and the soft voice, I saw something cold in her eyes. "So you want to reinstate the wedding payments?" I said flatly. "Well," Vanessa glanced at Marcus, "if you're willing to continue helping us, we'd be so grateful. But that's not why we're here. We're here to make things right." "Uh-huh." I leaned back in my chair. Let me ask you something, Vanessa. When exactly did you realize you needed me back? Before or after the GoFundMe raised only $800? Her smile faltered. Before or after the vendors refused to work with you? Before or after you realized you couldn't actually afford this wedding without me? Margaret, that's not fair. Fair? I felt the cold anger returning. You want to talk about fair? Let's talk about the Facebook group where you called me abusive. Let's talk about you telling vendors I have dementia. Let's talk about you threatening Rosa Delgado's business. Let's talk about you demanding Marcus choose between you and his mother. Marcus's face went pale. Mom, those Facebook posts were taken out of context. Were they? Because I have screenshots. All of them. My attorney has been documenting everything. Vanessa's mask began to slip. Your attorney? You hired a lawyer against us? I hired a lawyer to protect myself from defamation, which you've been committing for 2 weeks straight. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Vanessa stood up, her voice rising. This is why we didn't want you at the wedding. You're vindictive and controlling. You can't stand that Marcus loves me more than he loves you. Vanessa. Marcus grabbed her hand, trying to calm her. She shook him off. No, I'm done pretending. Your mother is a bitter old woman who's trying to ruin our happiness because she's jealous and alone. She wants you to be as miserable as she is. There it is, I said quietly. The real Vanessa. You think you're so smart, she hissed. You think you've won? You haven't won anything. You've lost your son, forever. Marcus and I are leaving California. We're moving to Boston where my family is, and you'll never see us again. You'll never meet your grandchildren. You'll die alone in this pathetic little house, and we won't even come to your funeral. Marcus looked horrified. Vanessa, stop. Why should I stop? She needs to hear the truth. She's a selfish, manipulative... Get out, I said, my voice like steel. Vanessa blinked. What? Get out of my house, both of you. Mom, please, let's just calm down. Marcus, you brought her here to manipulate me, to pressure me into giving her money. You sat there and let her pretend to apologize while planning to leverage my emotions. Did you think I wouldn't see through it? Did you think I'd be so desperate to be in your life that I'd tolerate being used? It's not like that. Then tell me, did you come here to genuinely apologize or to get access to my bank account? He couldn't look at me. That's what I thought. Leave. Vanessa grabbed her purse, her face contorted with rage. You'll regret this. I swear to God, you'll regret this. The only thing I regret, I said evenly, is not seeing who you were sooner. Now get out. They left. Marcus paused at the door, looking back at me with something that might have been regret or might have been anger. I couldn't tell anymore. After they were gone, I sat alone in my living room. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. For a moment, fear crept in. Fear that I'd just lost my son forever. But then I thought about Diane's words, about the support group, about self-respect and boundaries. And the fear transformed into something else. Resolve. If this was the battle Vanessa wanted, I was ready to fight it. The wedding day arrived. Saturday, June 3rd. Sunny, 75 degrees. Perfect weather for a Napa Valley ceremony that wasn't happening. I spent the morning in my garden, drinking coffee, feeling oddly at peace. My phone was off. I'd told Patricia Torres I'd be unreachable for the day. Whatever chaos was unfolding, I didn't want to witness it. At 2:30 in the afternoon, someone started pounding on my door. I considered not answering. Then I heard Marcus's voice. Mom, please. I know you're home. Please open the door. I opened it. Marcus stood there in jeans and a t-shirt, not the tuxedo he should have been wearing at his wedding ceremony. His face was blotchy, his eyes red-rimmed. He looked like he'd been crying for hours. Marcus, what? It's over, he choked out. Everything. The wedding's canceled. Vanessa's gone. Mom, I need help. I pulled him inside. He collapsed onto my sofa, the same sofa where he'd sat with Vanessa 2 weeks ago, threatening me. Tell me what happened. He took a shuddering breath. The venue called us yesterday. Said they'd received a complaint from a previous client, some woman named Diane Castellano, warning them about Vanessa. They asked if it was true that we'd uninvited my mother but expected her to keep paying. I tried to explain, but Vanessa lost it. Started screaming at them, threatening to sue. They canceled our contract, refunded your deposit but banned us from the property. Go on. Then this morning, I got a call from Tyler, Vanessa's brother. He said he needed to talk to me urgently. I met him at a coffee shop. Marcus's voice cracked. Mom, he told me everything. About Vanessa. About what she did to his fiancée Diane. About how Vanessa has done this before. Targeted the mother of boyfriends, driven wedges between families, isolated guys from their support systems. He said she's pathological, that she gets off on control and drama. And you believed him? Not at first. I thought he was just trying to protect you. But then he showed me things, messages, videos, a recording of Vanessa talking to her friend, laughing about how she'd gotten rid of your presence at the wedding. Saying once we were married, she'd make sure you were completely cut out of our lives, that you were too close to me and needed to be managed. My heart ached for him. Marcus, I confronted her. At the hotel where we were supposed to spend last night before the wedding. I played her the recording. And you know what she said? She didn't deny it. She said you deserved it. That mothers-in-law were toxic by nature, and she was protecting our marriage. When I said I wanted to postpone the wedding and go to real therapy, she gave me an ultimatum. Marry her today, cut you off completely, or we're done. And you chose? I chose you, Mom. Finally, I chose you. He started crying in earnest. I'm so sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. I let her turn me into someone I don't recognize. I chose her over you, over myself, over everything. What kind of son does that? I sat beside him and pulled him into a hug the way I'd done when he was a child. A son who was being manipulated by an expert. This isn't your fault, Marcus. It is, though. I saw the signs. I just didn't want to admit I'd made a mistake. And now I've lost everything. The wedding, the deposits, Vanessa, my friends who sided with her. You haven't lost everything. You still have me. He sobbed against my shoulder. We sat like that for a long time. Eventually, Marcus pulled away and wiped his face. There's more, he said. After I ended things, Vanessa completely unraveled. She called me 17 times in an hour. When I wouldn't answer, she started calling my coworkers, my boss, saying I'd abused her, that I was dangerous. She posted on Facebook that I'd left her at the altar, that I'd stolen money from her. She's telling everyone you put me up to this, that you bribed me or threatened me or I don't even know. She's spiraling. Did you save the messages? Everyone. Good. Forward them all to this email address. I wrote down Patricia Torres's contact information. She's the attorney I hired. She's been documenting Vanessa's behavior. Between what you have and what we have, we can shut down any defamation. Marcus looked at me with something like awe. You really were 5 steps ahead this whole time. Not 5 steps. I was just protecting myself. And protecting you, even when you didn't want me to. His phone started buzzing. He glanced at it and his face went white. It's Vanessa's mother. She's calling from the venue. Says Vanessa showed up there anyway, drunk, trying to force them to let her in. She's threatening to break windows. They've called the police. Then let the police handle it. Mom, she's going to get arrested. Then she's going to get arrested. That's not your responsibility anymore. You ended it. Her actions are her own. He stared at his phone as it kept buzzing. Call after call, text after text. Finally, he powered it off. What do I do now? He asked quietly. Now? You figure out who you are without her. You rebuild. You apologize to the people you hurt, including Rosa and the other vendors. You take responsibility for your part in this, and you heal. Will you help me? I took his hand. Always. That's what mothers do. Over the next week, the full extent of Vanessa's unraveling became clear. She'd been arrested at the venue, public intoxication, trespassing, and vandalism after she'd thrown a rock through the window of the venue's office. Her mugshot made the local news. "Bride arrested at canceled wedding," the headline read. Patricia Torres called with an update. Margaret, Vanessa's attorney, dropped her. Apparently, she'd been lying to him too, told him you'd made verbal promises to pay that you'd reneged on. When he requested documentation and discovered the truth, he withdrew from the case. She's now representing herself in what she's calling a civil suit against you and Marcus, but she filed the paperwork incorrectly, and it's already been dismissed. What's she suing for? Emotional distress, breach of implied contract, and, I'm not making this up, intentional interference with advantageous relationship. The judge threw it out within 24 hours, called it frivolous, and warned her against filing again without proper legal counsel. Marcus, who'd been staying in my guest room, looked simultaneously relieved and horrified. "There's more," Patricia continued. "Multiple vendors are now pursuing her for the deposits they'd refunded to you. They're claiming she made fraudulent representations, promised payment she couldn't deliver, and threatened their businesses. Rosa Delgado is leading the charge. They've banded together and hired a collections attorney." "How much does she owe?" "About $18,000 collectively. And since she has no assets, they're likely to get a judgment that'll follow her for years." After Patricia hung up, Marcus looked at me. "Is it wrong that I don't feel bad for her?" "No, it's natural. She did this to herself." "My friends are starting to reach out," he said. "The ones who cut me off when I sided with her. Tyler sent me a long message apologizing for not warning me sooner. He said he tried to tell me subtly, but I wasn't ready to hear it. He's been dealing with Vanessa's manipulation his whole life." "Are you angry at him?" "I was. But now I understand. She's his sister. He was trapped between family loyalty and doing the right thing, just like I was trapped between you and her." "But you chose." "I chose. Finally." He paused. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Why didn't you give up on me? I said terrible things to you. I took her side again and again. Why did you keep fighting?" "I thought about it. Because you're my son. And because I knew the real Marcus was still in there somewhere, buried under her manipulation. I was fighting for him, the man I raised, not the stranger she'd turned you into." He started crying again, the healing kind of tears this time. 2 weeks later, I received an email from Rosa Delgado. "Mrs. Palmer, I wanted you to know, the vendors who worked with Vanessa have all agreed. We're donating our services for a small, intimate wedding ceremony if Marcus and his future partner ever want one. No charge. It's the least we can do after what you both went through. You showed us what real character looks like. Thank you for that. Rosa." I showed it to Marcus. He smiled, genuinely smiled, for the first time in weeks. "I'm not ready to date anyone," he said. "Not for a long time. But when I am, when I finally meet someone real, I'll know what to look for now and what to avoid." That's all any of us can do, learn and grow. The final piece of the story came from Tyler. He called Marcus one evening and asked to speak to both of us on speakerphone. "I wanted you both to know, our parents finally cut Vanessa off, financially and emotionally. They've been enabling her for years, bailing her out, making excuses. But after what she did to you, Marcus, and after they learned about Diane and the others before her, they're done. They told her to get therapy or get out of their lives. She chose to leave." "Where is she now?" Marcus asked. "I don't know, and honestly, I don't want to know. I hope she gets help. But I'm not responsible for her anymore. Neither are you, Marcus. Neither of you are." After the call ended, Marcus turned to me. "Do you think she'll ever change?" "I don't know. Some people do. Some people don't. But that's not our concern anymore. Our concern is healing and moving forward." "I destroyed your savings, Mom. $65,000. $22,000, I corrected. I got most of it back, remember? And you know what? I'd spend it again if it meant getting my son back. Money can be replaced. You can't. He hugged me tightly. I'm going to pay you back, every cent. It might take years, but I will. I know you will. But there's no rush. What matters is you're here. You're safe. And we're okay. And we were. We really were. 3 months after the canceled wedding, Vanessa's social media accounts disappeared. The Facebook group was deleted. The GoFundMe page was taken down. It was as if she'd vanished. Good riddance. A year passed, then 2. Life, as it tends to do, continued. Marcus moved back to Sacramento. He couldn't afford San Francisco anymore. Vanessa had maxed out his credit cards during their engagement, something he'd discovered after she left. He got a job at a local tech company, started therapy, and slowly rebuilt his life from the ground up. I watched him heal. It wasn't linear. There were setbacks, days when he'd spiral into self-blame or depression, but gradually, the light came back into his eyes. He reconnected with old friends he'd neglected during his relationship with Vanessa. He picked up hobbies he'd abandoned: rock climbing, photography, cooking. I forgot who I was, he told me one evening over dinner. I became whoever she wanted me to be. It's weird rediscovering yourself at 37. Better late than never, I said. On weekends, Marcus would come over and we'd work in the garden together. We'd replanted Tom's rose bushes, which had been dying. Now they bloomed brilliantly every spring. Sometimes we'd talk about Vanessa, about the warning signs he'd missed, the red flags he'd rationalized. Other times we'd just enjoy comfortable silence. My own life expanded in unexpected ways. The support group Diane had introduced me to became a real community. Several of us started meeting in person monthly. We called ourselves the Narcissist Survivors Club, half joking, half serious. We shared stories, strategies, and strength. Diane and I became genuine friends. She'd moved to Sacramento for a new job, and we'd meet for coffee every other week. She was dating someone new, a kind, stable man who treated her with respect. You know what the difference is? She said one day. With Tyler, I was always walking on eggshells, trying to anticipate Vanessa's moods and reactions. With James, I can just be. It's peaceful. I didn't realize how exhausting the drama was until I didn't have it anymore. I understood completely. Rosa Delgado and I stayed in touch too. She'd send me photos of her work, gorgeous floral arrangements for weddings much smaller and more intimate than the one Vanessa had planned. These are my favorites, she'd say. The couples who focus on love instead of show. They're the ones who last. Patricia Torres sent me an email every few months with updates on Vanessa's legal situation. The judgments from the vendors stood. Vanessa had declared bankruptcy but couldn't discharge the debt. Fraud-based damages weren't covered. The debt would follow her for years. I heard she's living in Texas now, Patricia wrote in one email. Working retail under her middle name, her social media presence is completely gone. She's essentially trying to start over with a new identity. Good, I thought. Maybe that's what she needed. A complete reset. Away from enablers, away from people who knew her patterns. Marcus started dating again in the second year. Casually at first, coffee dates, nothing serious. Then he met Elena, a kindergarten teacher with a warm smile and no drama. She was divorced, had a 6-year-old daughter, and approached relationships with healthy boundaries and open communication. The first time Marcus brought her to meet me, I was nervous. What if I scared her off? What if she thought I was the overbearing mother Vanessa had painted me as? But Elena greeted me with a genuine hug. Mrs. Palmer, Marcus has told me so much about you. Thank you for raising such a good man. I liked her immediately. Over dinner, Elena shared her own story. Her ex-husband had been emotionally abusive, and she'd spent years in therapy learning to recognize manipulation. I can spot red flags from a mile away now, she said with a laugh. And Marcus? He's the greenest of green flags. They dated for a year before getting engaged. When Marcus asked for my blessing, I cried happy tears. "Mom, I want to make something clear," he said. "This time, we're paying for everything ourselves. Small ceremony, immediate family only, backyard reception. And you're not just invited, you're walking me down the aisle, both you and Elena's mom. Because that's what this wedding is about. Family. Real family." The wedding was beautiful. 25 people in Elena's sister's garden. Homemade food. Walmart flowers that Rosa had insisted on arranging for free as a gift. Marcus's friend played guitar. Elena's daughter served as flower girl. I walked my son down the aisle, and this time I knew he was marrying the right person. Meanwhile, news of Vanessa trickled in occasionally through Tyler, who Marcus had reconciled with. She'd been fired from 3 jobs for interpersonal conflicts. She'd burned through 2 more relationships, both ending in restraining orders. She was estranged from her parents and most of her extended family. "She's her own worst enemy," Tyler said sadly, "and she refuses to get help. Some people just won't change." I felt a distant pity for her, but no guilt. I'd offered her grace, boundaries, and consequences. She'd chosen chaos every time. My savings account slowly rebuilt. Marcus paid me back in small increments, $50 here, $100 there. I told him it wasn't necessary, but he insisted. "It's not about the money, Mom," he said. "It's about keeping my word, about showing you that your trust isn't misplaced." 2 years after Marcus and Elena's wedding, they gave me the greatest gift, a grandson. Little Thomas, named after my late husband. I held him in the hospital and thought about everything that had happened. The pain, the betrayal, the fear, and how it had all led here, to this moment. Worth it, all of it, worth it. So that's my story. Would I have done anything differently? Maybe. Maybe I would have seen the red flags sooner, been more cautious, protected my son better. But hindsight is always clearer than the moment you're living in. What would you have done? When someone you love is manipulated, when you're excluded but expected to pay, when you're painted as the villain for setting boundaries, how do you respond? I chose self-respect. I chose truth. And in the end, I got my son back. If you've been through something similar, you're not alone. Share your story in the comments. Subscribe for more real-life tales. And remember, sometimes loving someone means setting boundaries, even when it hurts. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourselves. You're worth fighting for.